We're happy to have all of our commissioners here, with the exception of Commissioner Hilton and Commissioner Carey. Have we heard anything from them?
Yeah, Commissioner Carey emailed me and said she wouldn't be here, but I haven't heard
Okay.
from her.
All right. We'll go ahead and continue. The first item on the agenda for tonight is community development update, or no, public comment. But I don't see any public here, so we'll go to item number C, which is presentation and reports. Mr. Cooper?
We are scheduling our first development review committee
Okay.
for the Larry Miller townhomes. So that's the rezone that you all recommended approval to for the city council. They did approve that rezone from C2 and CP2 to R5, I believe it was.
That's the ones behind Cafe Rio.
And so you also recommended for the approval of the plan development ordinance, which they did approve finally after a few months. And so that's going to be the ordinance that governs that new development. So in that PD ordinance, we instituted a new process step, which is the development review committee. It used to be the design review committee, if you remember, and that was changed to development review, and it added, in addition to the existing members, a member of the city council. So we're going to have our first meeting under the development review banner tomorrow for the Larry Miller Townhome project, and that'll be forthcoming to you as a subdivision and as a site plan. And so what we anticipate and what we hope, Chair, you're on that committee, so what we hope in implementing this new process is that as we have these types of committee meetings, that in subsequent planning commission meetings, you as chair and as member of that committee, you would report to the commission what you see and hear and think. And that gives you all a bit of an opportunity to provide feedback to me based on his information to you that I could then get implemented into that process. So by the time you see it as a site plan and subdivision, you've had a little bit of exposure to the project. So that feedback loop is really important. And the member of the council will do that to the council. And so we'll have legislative feedback at the beginning of the review process as well. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Well, and one thing I'd like to mention about that as well, as these meetings come up, hopefully we'll be able to let you know about them in advance. So if you have comments about what's happening that you would like me to take to the committee and things like that, please let me know. Welcome.
McDonald's was busy.
In terms of other updates, was anyone able to attend the Ken Garf Honda, or excuse me, that was a faux pas. The young Chrysler Jeep Dodge dealership. Okay.
It wasn't.
So we were out of town, so Councilor Arnold was representing the city as Mayor Pro Tem. So encourage you to get out to those as you can. They're not always possible because they're in the middle of the day usually. So.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to update us on?
I think that's it.
What's happening with First Watch? Anything new?
So they don't have any changes to their site plan or to the subdivision or anything like that.
Okay.
And so they'll have the development review committee just review, or excuse me, they had the old design review committee just review their elevations, the paint colors and some of the material changes on the exterior. That was approved. So their next step is a building permit, which that's the only thing they need to do. And that'll be reviewed and issued once the work's complete, and that'll change. And I'm not sure what the timing is. We asked about the lease with Goodwood, whether or not that was immediate, end of year kind of thing, but they didn't tell us.
Okay. I know Ruby River is also closing May 1st, I think. So do we have any updates as far as what's going in afterwards?
That's actually our action item,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I can explain it then.
All right. Well,
Is Goodwood closing?
yeah.
Well,
No.
I haven't heard any formal news from Goodwood. I called Goodwood, and obviously the folks at the restaurant don't know much. But, there is First Watch, who is actively pursuing a building permit to convert it to a First Watch. And so that leads me to believe that, yes, sometime in the future.
What is First
Well,
Watch?
yeah,
Excuse me.
It's a breakfast and lunch.
Oh, there's one in Layton.
Yes.
Like
You're right.
vegan or something.
No,
it's
it's
not.
I thought
it's
it was.
classic.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
I've gone.
It's just breakfast and lunch. They're open from like 7 to 2.
Yeah,
Michelle's been there. You want to report to us, Michelle, and let us know what you think?
I've been there too.
Was delicious. Really, really busy.
It was
Yeah,
It's very busy.
really busy.
so.
Okay.
All right.
Is Ruby River planning on opening another
No.
spot, or they're just going to be out of Riverdale? Period.
Yeah, I'll explain that because it kind of goes in with our action item.
Okay. Consent items, consideration of meeting minutes from March 10th, 2026, work session and regular meeting. Does anybody have any, any updates or to the minutes or corrections? Then
I
a
did.
motion is in order.
Sorry, I did make
Okay.
one change
Okay.
because I had you as just commissioner and you as the vice chair.
Okay.
So I changed it.
Okay.
So that's correct now.
All right. Great. A motion is in order to approve the consent items.
I move to approve the consent items.
Okay. Second.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say yes.
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 Yes. Any opposed? Okay. Consent items are approved. Action item E, consideration to set a public hearing for a text amendment to Title 10 of the Riverdale City Code for the classification of new and unlisted business uses.
Okay, so there's not a formal presentation. You're just setting a public hearing tonight for a future date in which I'll explain things in detail. But let me tell you what you're setting the public hearing for. It does have to do with Ruby River.
Okay.
So we've got word from the owner of Ruby River that they do indeed want to shut down the restaurant, but to reopen it partly as a restaurant and partly as what could be considered as a tavern or a nightclub. So that's what the code would call it. They call it a honky tonk,
Yep.
if you're more familiar with that. I've learned that the Westerner is in Salt Lake on Redwood, which is pretty much what they're looking to go for. What this action is to implement something that was actually passed by the state a couple of years ago by Representative Musselman. He passed a bill that essentially said that if an applicant comes into the city and wants to have a business approved and there's nothing in the city code that lists that business, then we need to create a process in which we determine whether that business can be classified as a similar business or as a new business. And there's lots of reasons for that, and I'll explain that when I give the presentation. Essentially, we don't have a business designation in the city for a tavern, honky-tonk, or nightclub. We have definitions in certain places of the code, but they're not actually zone-permitted businesses or uses that can be in any zone. So because of that, we have to, set up the process to determine how to deal with that and then deal with it. So that's what we'll be doing when you set the public hearing. Because it's a text amendment to our Title 10 zoning code, then we have to get that established, and then we'll be able to review their application as a honky-tonk or a nightclub or something. And Mike's familiar with this. We'll have to get this language implemented into the code revisions, but we need to deal with it now so that we can deal with their application.
Question, I can't remember the name of the business that was there before Ruby River.
It was a brewery.
Ebenezer's.
Yeah.
Was that the brewery?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had, that's what I was gonna ask, because
But
they
that-
had a brewery in there.
We don't have a code.
They didn't have a tavern.
But more like a dance floor kind of a thing is what the honky tonk's going for, right?
Right. So a nightclub definition in our code, which is not in Title 10, it's actually elsewhere in the code, defines a nightclub is defined as a place that serves alcohol, food, and has an area for dancing. So that's the most applicable title we could give to their code or to their requested use, but it's not approved. It's not an approved use in the C3, which is where this is at. And so, based on Representative Musselman's law that we have to abide by, we have to determine if it's classified as an existing similar business or as a new business. And there's a process to do that. The city council actually takes that action.
Would it be a new or the same business but just with an amendment to it?
If it's so their application comes to me first, and
Right.
if I look at the code and I can find something that is similarly defined, so let's say we did have a tavern definition or a tavern use, and they wanted to come in as a nightclub, I could find some similarities between those two that would allow the nightclub to be approved.
Okay.
If I couldn't do that, which in this case I probably won't be able to because there's nothing close to a tavern or a nightclub or a honky tonk, then it goes to the city council and they make the decision and they essentially classify it as an unlisted use, and then it gets codified in that zone. So it's an interesting process that he implemented. I don't like it at all because it totally circumvents the whole reason why we're zoning things in the first place.
Right.
If we can just add stuff kind of a la carte.
His recommendation, like a typical,
What's that?
our role when that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a little perfunctory because whether you say no or not, it's a mandated thing by the state.
Right.
So you could, now they just mandate it, and the way I've written the code is essentially exactly how the state code requires it. There might be some things that you want to see in addition to that, and that's certainly up to you when we get to that point. We can't be less restrictive than the state code, but we certainly can be more.
Okay.
Interesting.
Any other questions? Any discussion about okay, then a motion would be in order
I'd like to set a motion to
Set 'em- oh,
for the
sorry.
public hearing.
for the public hearing
Yeah.
to a text amendment to Title 10 of Riverdale City Code for classification of a new and unlisted business uses.
Okay. And did you want to add a date to that public hearing?
May 12th.
When's our next meeting?
The 12th of May?
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. And second?
Second?
Okay. All in favor, say yes.
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 Yes. Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing is set then for May the 12th. Next item on the agenda is for comments of staff or planning commission members. Any comments that you'd like to make? Then a motion to adjourn is in order.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Nay. Okay. We are adjourned. And now we'll move into our work session.